So this is a quick, short little video about long-run policy implications of using fiscal and monetary policy. So let's dive in. The four problems with relying on fiscal policy would be time lags to identify the problem, to decide on the proper solution, and to implement, right? So there's kind of three different time lags. And another problem with using taxes and spending and transfers is politically motivated policies can have policymakers try to increase AD to benefit their re-elections. So that, politically motivated policies would be the idea of like cut taxes in the year before, tax cuts in the year before a big election would be a good example of that sort of thing. The crowding out effect is another problem with using fiscal policy. It's the idea that if we increase G or cut T to increase AD. This is the problem, that we often have to borrow to finance the government spending or the cut in taxes. And so demand for loanable funds, which we learned about in a previous video, increases. And so the real interest rate increases, which crowds out private investment. And so by reducing investment, not typically so much that it outweighs the G or T change, but it does usually kind of mute the effect, is a way to think about it. Now, the other issue with using fiscal policy, why you might not get as big a effect as you think, would be if we say, let's increase G or cut T to increase AD. And again, it'd be nice if I learned how to spell by the end of doing all these videos. We have to note that AD increases, so PL increases. If the domestic PL rises, and by the way, this is the price level, then the domestic goods are more expensive for foreigners. So our exports decrease, which reduces AD. Again, not typically so much that it outweighs, but again, it just kind of mutes the effect. What is money neutrality? So this is switching gears a little bit to thinking about monetary policy. This is the idea that if you increase the supply of money, that in the short run, you can affect the amount of output, right? And you can affect interest rates. But in the long run, you only can affect price levels. And so we'd say that the reason why we call it money neutrality, money is neutral in terms of output and interest rates. And so here's kind of the why of that, right? The 3 and 4. So if the supply of money increases, then we'd say that you would have increasing AD, right? And hopefully I don't have to make that huge connection for you at this point. I think you should be able to link those two things together. In another video, we did that. However, when AD increases, PL increases. And another way to think about it is that the demand for money increases. So both like this short run increase in output, right? Output or AD, and we can say output or AD increases, PL increases. Both of those would cause a demand for money to increase. And when the demand for money increases, the interest rate goes back up. And so this, by the way, is the mechanism. So the supply of money increases, so we'd say the interest rate falls, and that's going to cause that increase in output. But the interest rate will go back up when the demand for money goes back up again. So we'd say, thus, the supply of money is neutral in terms of interest rates in the long run. Likewise, if the supply of money increases, we'd say interest rate falls, right? And we knew that from the other one. This increases Y, or AD, the output or aggregate demand. However, when output/AD increases, PL increases. And so, therefore, we would say and I don't have a quick little therefore symbol, but I'm using these kind of arrows as that. Therefore, if price levels are going up, wages and input costs increase in the long run. And so when wages and input costs increase, SRAS shifts left or decreases back to the YF level of output. And so that's why we'd say the money supply doesn't really affect long-run output levels. But if we graphed all of that, we would know that if the SRAS is shifting left, it's going to push the price levels even higher. And that's really the only thing it's not neutral in, right, is price levels. And we're going to look at that just in the next video. So hopefully this helps you understand the long-run implications of using fiscal and monetary policy.